York's classic rock, Q1043.
Well, they say it's good for the heart. They think
it's good for the
heart. Because that's where it started as a heart medication. Then they found the side effect, but now they're back to this is really good for your heart.
I'll go with that.
Shelley, we have Duff McKagan here with us at Q104.3. Can you stop talking about Viagra for a moment and allow us to get you know Duff, what it's like when you're in the room with Shelley. You never know where the conversation is going to go.
Yeah, she'll throw you off. Start with Viagra.
What she was telling you
in the morning.
She was telling you it's good for your heart.
It is.
I mean, of course, it's good for your heart. That's why I take it all the time.
It started as a heart medication. They found the side effect. They made a gazillion dollars.
Right.
Jim, it's really good for your heart.
And then they found it really is good for your heart.
Really?
Most recently.
It's a heart medication. She is right.
It is.
She is right. I think
it helps the blood flow. And so isn't that all about the heart?
Walter Mondale, if I got this right, he took it. He had heart issues and discovered there was beneficial side effects.
So he called
he called
his Republican friend Bob Dole and said,
was it Bob Dole or Walter? I get those guys confused always. But one of them did the first commercial for Viagra.
That was Bob Dole.
Bob Dole, sorry. Okay, Bob Dole.
Different party.
I always get those guys confused.
Yeah, but same era.
Same era.
It was the same era.
And no doubt they were friends.
Probably back then you could be friends.
Back then they were friends.
You could be friends.
Yeah. Well, let's get back there too, by the way.
Now, Duff, I understand that originally you had this idea as you were going through this experience of touring with Guns N' Roses, one of the biggest tours of all time, that you had an idea for another book, but the book somehow morphed into an album.
That's correct. I guess to put that band back together, some really amazingly wonderful things happened in the three of our relationship, and that was
that being Axl and Duff.
That's correct. Yeah, and we had some really cool, powerful, grown ass men talks, and that was more important than almost anything. You know, if anybody thinks we went out to go do it for, a money grab or anything like that, it was completely off base. It was just, if we would have just mended our fences like we did, and with the honesty, and just did that, I would have been totally fine. But then, the idea of we got offered the Coachella shows that nobody knew about except for the three of us. And I'm like, well, we could go do that, we could go to experiment with that. And it felt so good playing together again that it was a no-brainer. Okay, and then more shows came up, and we just kept playing it because that's what we do, and that's what we love to do.
How did that all start, the fence mending and the healing? What did it start with?
Didn't one of you bump into another person in some hotel lobby or something somewhere?
I mean, sure. I bumped into Axl. My room was next to his in London in 2010.
By coincidence?
I was there for business, for my financial business, and he was there playing a gig, so...
Meant to be.
Yeah, so long story short is let's get to the tour. I was at this kind of place of real ease, and we're playing these songs that we built together, this thing that we, out of thin air, and all of these people were showing up, and this unification of people. And before we left on tour, I got sucked down into that news thing. It was October of 2015, November 2015, December. And I went, and I read a lot of history. I'm just a history fanatic.
Well, you're a history buff.
Yes. Yeah. And so I'm watching the news, and I know I'm getting sucked into this thing. And they start bringing the panels on, and they're sending this message of divisiveness, right? Mm-hmm. I know it's the new tool, right? There's always a tool to sell news or to politicians to stump on. There's always a tool. This one was, divisiveness, but still, I'm start following the people on Twitter. I'm doing all the wrong things, and I know I'm going down the rabbit hole, but I can't help myself. My wife's like, "You got to chill on this," and we go out on the road, and I make this conscious decision to turn off all of the news, mute everything on Twitter except for the Seattle Seahawks and the Seattle Mariners. I got Twitter in the first place. Follow my sports teams abroad. And I get out and I see all these historic places. I get out and meet people is what I'm trying to say.
You traveled the world and you had an opportunity to meet people that most of us would never have the opportunity to meet.
But I go on the nerdy tour, like the swamp guy in Louisiana, the alligator guy.
Yeah, but most people don't get to meet the alligator guy in Louisiana because we don't get to travel. Your work took you all over the globe.
And it has for 30 years, and that's what was freaking me out about the divisiveness, because I'm like, wait, I've been traveling for over 30 years. Is this a new, like, I was sold on it. Like, are we really divided? This is kind of terrifying me. I go out on the road, and it's the same people, and it's the same. We got each other's backs, and there's no red state or blue state. I'm crossing state lines. I'm not seeing red or blue, and I'm not seeing, and I think because we don't know how to handle social media yet, we're in our infancy, so we don't know how to be responsible and be cool and treat each other like we would facing each other on the street and working with each other and doing things together. We are decent people, and this is just a thing I think that'll pass, this divisiveness. There's been other tools in the past that I've read about in our history books, and if you don't learn from your past and your history, you're bound to repeat it. But I have the pleasure of reading a lot of history and seeing that, this is just a temporary thing. This will pass. And I was really heartened by what I saw in my travels, and the divisiveness thing is just a ruse. And I started writing these stories about it and these observations, and it was going to be perhaps my third book. I've always wanted to do a very austere musical record for over 20 years, like a Mark Lanigan-like record or Johnny Thunder's acoustic sort of record. And I had an acoustic guitar on the road with me, and I started playing these chords, and I was reading one of my chapters, and it happened to rhyme, and that was the second song on the record, It's Not Too Late.
So you've written words on the page for a book. You're strumming a guitar, and a melody comes into your head.
All came together. That's so odd.
Yeah, and it all came together, and the book became an album, and you hooked up with Shooter Jennings.
Shooter Jennings, amazing. And there's no real reason for me to make a record right now in the middle of all this gun stuff, but I just thought...
Well, the tour isn't even over yet.
No, we're in the middle of it, you
yeah.
know? So, but I just thought, I'd read a bunch of really great books. Hillbilly Elegy by J.D. Vance, I don't know if you read that.
No.
Educated. I read The View from the Flyover Country by Sarah Kandahar.
Those are all big books, and I was surprised that at the same time they're rather current. Hillbilly Elegy and The View from Flyover Country are contemporary books. But you just recently read The Rise and Fall of the Third Reich by William Shearer.
I did. Oh my God!
And that's an eyewitness account. He was a correspondent for CBS Radio, and that was a book that was assigned to us when I was in junior high school. But it's just extraordinary.
I highly recommend everybody read this book. It is a page turner. Mm-hmm. William Shearer is an amazing researcher and writer, but it reads like a novel. Fact is always stranger than fiction. And this book, it's really a healthy book to read, and it gives you a really broad scope of history and things, machinations in governments and ruses and all kinds of things, and consequence.
And Shelley, in our radio broadcasting world, he was a participant in the very first World News Roundup, which was done live in those days. They had to hook up the shortwave transmitters and broadcast from Europe back to the United States.
Yeah,
it was amazing.
Kicked him out of Germany.
Yeah,
and he had to go up to some spot, maybe in Switzerland, and broadcast. Right?
It was of such a dramatic story.
Well, reading that today, what lessons can you...
Rise and Fall?
Yes. Vis-a-vis today, what lessons can be learned?
I don't apply current, we have term limits and things here in America. Like, politicians here, like I used to play in punk rock bands in the late 70s, early 80s, and we railed against the man, but we knew then that it was it was the lobbyists. It was like now it's big pharma, the opioid crisis. It's there's a lot of they're 10 steps ahead of us. And meanwhile, we're down here screaming over divisiveness. And we got to, after 9/11, how we all had each other's backs.
Right.
house by house. You had your neighbor's back. Right. I remember going to the grocery store and somebody stumbled, and everybody stopped and like, "You okay?" And that's the America I know, and that's the one I've witnessed traveling for so long.
And it's also the one that you love and you tell people about when you travel the world.
Yeah, it's exactly true. And Rise and Fall. What I learned about anything currently, I mean, there's some scary things going on in Europe right now. But this gal in Slovenia just won the presidential election. She's a liberal lesbian, and she was running against this really far right, like National Socialist guy, and it was scary. But she won, and that was a breath of fresh air. There's some things going on over there that are reminiscent of what you read in Rise and Fall of the Third Reich. I don't know why now, the immigration issues. Which, I mean, we could go. I could go deep. We got to take care of Syria and all of that stuff, and then you won't have this. Nobody wants to leave home. Let's be real. Nobody wants to leave home. Nobody wants to leave. I know people from El Salvador and Guatemala, and nobody wants to leave their home. Do you want to leave your home and go some far-flung place that you can't speak the language? No, you want to be at home with your family. Let's be real about it. Nobody's trying to like infiltrate some other. They're running from some pretty grave stuff. So I don't mean to get all political in the morning. Sorry, guys. I got jokes, but
well, that'll take us right back to Viagra again. But no, your observation, because you travel the world, your observations are, of course, unique and important. It's Duff McKagan who is with us here at Q104.3. Just musically, I heard that you. Recorded with our friend Wayne Kramer from the MC5.
Oh man, yes, I have.
What a remarkable guy! And if you haven't read his book, I have read his book. I would. Well, I know you have, but yes. For our friends,
you're right. Our friends, read Wayne Kramer. Read Steve Jones's book if you're into rock books. Mm-hmm. Read Steve Jones's book. And I got to play with the MC5. I don't know, three months ago. Mm-hmm. Kim Thale on guitar, Wayne Kramer. I got to play with those guys. It was amazing.
Kick out the jams, and I won't go on past that.
We could go on. You want to go down that road?
No, we're not going. We're not going down that road. Duff McKagan is with us. We'll be right back. The brand new album is Tenderness. It's out now by Universal. It was released on May 31st. It's available at all digital stores and on vinyl and CD, and there are various packages. I guess duffonline.com is the best way to find out all the info regarding the album. But we're going to play a song called Chip Away. Now, we were discussing before your love of history, and as a history buff, you do a lot of reading, and this song was inspired by a biography of the 18th President of the United States and our great Civil War Union General, Ulysses S. Grant.
Man, I read the Ron Chernow book, Grant. I read a lot, obviously, don't I? Embarrassingly enough.
But isn't it an inspiring story? I mean, he didn't have any money. He had been
alcoholic.
He won the Civil War. He was President of the United States. Oh. He had to write his biography while dying in great pain to tell his story and make some money for his family.
Yeah, that's right. But I didn't read that one.
Earth.
I read Ron Chernow.
Oh no, I know. Right. But I mean,
that
was
correct.
His autobiography. But I mean, the man really. I mean, that took an enormous amount of courage.
That's really
sad. He was not good with money, and he fought his way through alcoholism and in the early stages of the army and got himself up to a point where all these guys from West Point learned the same Napoleonic tactics, and he kind of went a different route. So Lee and all these guys were fighting each other like the same tactics. They all went to school together. They were all friends on both sides, right? And Grant, they all fought in Mexico together. And Grant went, okay, I'm gonna do a different tactic, and he really was quite a leader, and really took Abe Lincoln's message. After Abe was President Lincoln was assassinated, he was the general. I'm like, I have my orders, from my president, and that was emancipation, and that was, freeing. We are America united here, and the South and North is no longer we're America, and and he was a quite extraordinary guy. But yeah, this album was inspired by a lot of our history of this country and how grand it is, and how things repeat themselves.
Well, how does the song, which we're about to hear, how was it inspired by that book, by that story?
Just, I mean, I started the song by Talking Heads, which of course news people are selling us the crap, and then I go on. I think I'll let this all pass through. I wrote this as I was reading the Grant book and seeing how history repeated itself, and how this phase we're in right now will indeed pass, and that's really the overarching theme of this song.
I love your optimism.
Sometimes the truth lies in the middle of multiple interpretations. That's what you had to say.
Well, it's in there somewhere, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. I like to read different sides of the same story. I went to Seattle U after I got sober. I went to a Jesuit university and got a business degree, but I took all the philosophy and 2 years of religion, and learned to read critically, especially theology. Mm-hmm. It's a thing you have to read very critically, with all the translations and so on of the Gospels.
Well, did you study some Hebrew and Greek? I mean, it's
Aramaic.
Aramaic. Well, yeah. This
coffee you made, by the way, is amazing.
Oh, I'm so glad you like it.
I can start speaking in Aramaic, I think, in a few minutes.
Another fan of Shelley's coffee. Another fan of Shelley's coffee.
I had to give you something because getting up so early in the morning for us, you deserve it.
Indeed.
Okay, some lighthearted things that sound very, very exciting. Very exciting. A week from Monday, it's going to be Duff McKagan night at T-Mobile Park. You're being honored by the Seattle Mariners.
Wow.
I am.
I mean, this is Major League Baseball,
You're going to be like a little kid, aren't you?
But the Mariners started so good. We were like 19-2, and this was the first season I started going, I'm texting friends, we're going to go 160-2. The first time ever with the Mariners. Joking, of course. And I think since we went 19-2, we've gone like 2-25.
Doesn't matter. They're still Major League Baseball players, and you're not.
No, I'm not. And
you're
I'm
not.
excited.
And go talk to Mets fans.
Yeah, I know. So, yeah, it's Duff McKagan night at that Mariners thing, and I think we're going to, maybe with Shooter, I think we're going to play the anthem. We're going to do something cool.
Are they going to give you a jersey?
I'll get a jersey.
Are you going to throw out the first pitch?
I've done that. So
how nerve-wracking was it?
Yeah, not until all my buddies started texting me and saying, "Don't throw it in the dirt, man. Everybody's filming this thing."
Right.
I'm like, oh, geez. So I threw a strike for like Too Tall Jones.
Okay.
It got across the plate.
Okay, all it has to do is get across the plate.
Yeah.
You see, some people say that it cost John Kerry the presidential election when he ran.
I think it did.
Because the ball bounced in front of the plate.
You can't do that. You can't get that out of your head.
No, I got it across the plate. It was like if Too Tall Jones was at bat, it would have been a strike. Yeah. So I was stoked. My daughters and my wife were on the side. They played Jungle, like they had this big announcement. I'm like, oh my God, announcing Seattle's own Duff McKagan to throw out there. I'm like, no, I was gonna hopefully go under the radar and just kind of, jot out there and throw the ball, but no, they announced this big thing.
And Duff, you've been doing some side things, some meet and greets with people to raise money for some specific charitable organizations that you're involved in, like Seattle's Union Gospel Mission, which helps the homeless in King County, Washington. And it has exploded. I know from what I've read, the homeless situation in Seattle.
Well, there's a bunch of there. Even if I wrote the book, there's always been another side of this thing, and always going to be another side of it. And it is us helping each other. That is the overarching theme of this record. So
and there's another group, To Write Love on Her Arms, which helps those with mental health concerns and addiction, and 320 Changes Direction, another organization that helps those with mental health concerns and addiction.
Let's get there, guys. Let's get there.
And the website is duffonline.com. And Instagram at official Duff McKagan, Twitter at Duff McKagan, and Facebook at Duff McKagan. Wouldn't you love to spend an afternoon not participating, just watching and listening if we could get Duff in the same room with Brian May.
Oh, I love that
Oh,
guy.
two of the smartest guys we know.
Yes, two of the smartest
that's
people
what we're
that we have
talking
ever
about.
met.
He's in a different zone, man. That's Brian May, Dr. May.
Yes, Dr.
Yeah, no,
Dr.
I
May.
love that guy, and he is such a nice, special, wonderful man, isn't he?
But yes, he is. He's a wonderful guy. But
he's pretty good on the guitar too.
But the amazing example is that both of you went back to pursue your education in a classroom after you were world famous rock stars. Afterwards, not beforehand.
Yeah.
Afterwards.
Their
I didn't have the
interests.
option beforehand.
No,
you know?
but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
I mean that's just a wonderful accomplishment on behalf of both of you. And you know, you still have these fans who just love you so much. And you know, if people are lucky enough to have the means, they can see you multiple times. I mean, my son is a deadhead, you know, and he's hitchhiked around the country and stuff like that from when he was young to see the Dead.
Yeah.
My daughter-in-law, Susan, she loves Guns N' Roses.
They've even gone to Israel to see you.
They went to Israel to see you.
Oh, they
Yes.
did.
yeah,
they did.
They've seen you everywhere from Las Vegas to Israel. I
Yeah.
mean,
They go around the world to see. I have to ask something that we've talked about on air. We cannot understand it. What changed with Axl Rose from being hours late to a concert to being the hardest working man in the
He
music
is-
business? What happened?
Oh, I can't speak for him. I'll just tell you what I know about it, what I observe, and it's really made me work so much harder. His work ethic he's an animal. He's in the gym. He starts an hour and a half before the show, vocal warm-ups. We do a 3.5-hour long show. He broke his foot at the beginning of the tour. He had to do that show. He didn't say, let's stop. He said, let's continue. I'll do it sitting down. To sing sitting down, I don't know if either of you are singers, but singing sitting down is super hard.
mm-hmm.
But he does the hour and a half vocal warm-ups. He sings these shows. He does an hour and a half warm down. I'm already in bed reading my book, man. You know, like I'm done. And he's still warming down. I can hear him sometimes. I'm like, okay, that's hard. And that makes me work harder. I get up. I go to the gym. I start playing my bass extra early. I'm doing vocal warm-ups. You know, that guy's really like chest out, head up. He's the real deal, and I've learned him and Slash both. You know, just this tour really showed me how we're hard workers, and it reminded me of how hard we worked back in the day. You know, we'd have 2-a-day rehearsals, and people I think probably thought we were a bunch of F-ups. You know, we're on radio here. I won't say the.
Everybody knows what that means.
But people don't know. You know, you do the work when people aren't looking. And that was that band that did that, for sure, and we still do.
Well, it's Duff McKagan, and the new album is Tenderness, and thank you for visiting
Thank
with
you
us
so
at
much,
Q104.3. And I know you're going to be on with Jonathan Clark with his Sunday night show, Out of the Box, and they're going to delve deeper into the music on this outstanding new album. It's always a pleasure to see you when you're in town.
Always.
Okay, thank you
And
guys so
best
much.
wishes to your family. I know your daughter is studying here in New York City, so
Fashion.
maybe you'll be here. Maybe you'll be here more often.
Yeah, I try to get out and see my little girl, yeah.
Okay, thanks so much.
All right, cool.
New York's classic rock, Q104.3.